Since playing through Hollow Knight and Silksong, I got this revitalized love for not only Metroidvania, but also indie games as a whole. The state of gaming is also not so great at the moment. Games taking too long to make, costing too much to buy, and not even being worth the price of the plastic the game was put on. So I took advantage of the old reliable Steam sale and picked up a couple titles that have been on my wish list for a while. Savant Ascension Remix and Owlboy. These games have been on my radar for a while since I've been following Snake Pixel on Twitter for years. I learned about the studio and these games through his art, and I've always had an interest in playing them, but the time was never right and it never lined up until recently when the games were on super mega sale. It would have been a crime not to pick them up. So that's what I did. I scooped these two games up and jumped right into them. First, let's talk about Owlboy, since it's not only the bigger game, but I also think it's the game that D-pad is most recognized for. Owlboy is a 2D action-adventure game. The Steam store says it's a Metroidvania, but that's like 100%, 10% true. Owlboy is closer to Zelda more than anything else. You play as Otis, the titular Owlboy. The gameplay revolves around Otis's ability to jump, fly, spin, pick up and hold things, and there's a dodge roll too. But we're not calling this one a Souls-like. You're mostly gonna be flying and carrying stuff. Something you should immediately notice is how beautiful the pixel art and animation is. Like I said, I've followed Snake Pixel and his art for years. Either that's where I found out about Owlboy, or Owlboy directed me to his account. The dude is an omni-level artist, and judging from the credits, he was the only guy who did all this. Owlboy looks and feels like a Game Boy Advance game. Or maybe a 2D N64 game, cause I can't stop thinking about Mischief Maker when I look at this game, but that could just be from all the picking up you do. The dialogue and character interactions are all very Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. At least to me, that's how the characters feel. So that's where the GBA feel comes from, which I enjoy. The game brought me back to a happier time. To get back on track with the gameplay, having just compared it to Mario and Luigi, the gameplay loop is structured like Zelda more than anything. And not just any Zelda. Very specifically Skyward Sword, in the sense that you have your pre-dungeon areas, which have their own set pieces and puzzles, and then you get to the main dungeon where you go from room to room, unlocking doors until you come up to a boss and clear the area. Rinse and repeat until the game is over. There are moments when the game lets you go back and explore with your new abilities, but you can make that as much or as little as you want. Backtracking is not required to progress through the game, but there are some rewards for putting in the extra effort. All of this has me feeling a bit conflicted with Owlboy. A simple playthrough of the game is fine enough, it's not a bad game, but what's here just doesn't feel like enough. And not in the sense that it's enough for players. I mean, it's not enough for the developers. Every story beat, every big moment, you can feel the love, you can feel the passion. But with this game having a small team, and maybe it was a time and or money thing, it gives you enough to get through the game, but not enough to really feel satisfying. When the game is going over plot points or characters, it gives you just enough to get by and leaves enough blank spaces for some mystery, but never has time to truly give you everything. It sets up plot points that make you think the game is going to be going in this direction, only for that to not be the case at all. Things escalate very quickly, and then the game is done. I'm finding it pretty hard to put into words, but if you've played it, hopefully you know what I'm trying to say. The art, the gameplay, the music, oh my gosh, the music is amazing. It all sets up for this grand adventure, and it doesn't really give you that. It gives you like the bullet points of a grand adventure. When the game was over, I was left there thinking, okay, time to get the true ending. But there wasn't. Like, really? that was it. I looked up what else the game had. All I really missed was some extra lore and character upgrades. And to me, that wasn't worth it, because the backtracking in this game is pretty bad. There's no map or fast travel that I'm aware of. The game is pretty linear. So to get from one place to another, you have to go through other areas. And with no good way to keep track of where or what you've missed, there is a page that shows you what you've missed, but I mean like visually in game. You have no clue where something is missed. On top of knowing that it did not change the outcome of the ending, there just wasn't enough here for me to make a completion attempt. And I don't feel good bringing this up. It's like Owlboy is trapped in a cage and wants to break out. Every step of the way, you can feel the game wanting to break out and do more. To me, there's two types of games. There's toy games and art games. And Owlboy wants to be a toy game so badly. But due to whatever limitations, the team had to go for more of an art game. The game has feeling. It has heart. It has passion. And maybe back in 2016, when this released, $25 was an alright asking price for this. I mean, the Steam page is loaded with awards and acclaim. But unfortunately, the gaming landscape has changed since then. I got this game on sale for a few bucks, and I would say it was well worth it. And if you had paid full price at launch, I would say that it is just barely a reasonable asking price. Man, kinda ended that one on a downer. But this is not where things end, because we've got one more game to play through. Savant Ascent Remix. Assumedly a remake of their only other release on Steam, possibly the studio's first game, but also now their newest release. Kind of weird how that works out. Savant is what I would consider a toy game. It's just pure arcade action. When you start the game up for the first time, it gives you a pretty lengthy tutorial, but not in a tutorial stage kind of sense, though it does have that to give you the basic rundown of the controls. The whole first playthrough is pretty much the tutorial run. You unlock additional gameplay mechanics as you progress that you can then use freely after you unlock them. Kind of like Star Fox Zero, but executed in a way that works. The graphics are a mix of pixel art and HD painted assets. The environment, UI, and stage transition cutscenes being the HD assets, with the player character and enemies being pixel art. And it took me a while to notice that they were even pixel art. The animation reminds me of a couple of those older King of Fighter games. The one where the pixel art looks like it's 3D, 2D, and pixel art all at the same time. It's crazy. As for the gameplay, Savant is pretty simple, very arcadey as I mentioned. You're limited to just moving left and right, you've got to jump, multi-jump, and shoot. There's a couple of special moves that also involve shooting, but that's pretty much it. There's no leveling up, and aside from unlocking new abilities for the first time, there's no additional powers or abilities. This is not a roguelike, it's a modern arcade game. The limited controls really hit that home more than anything. Weirdly enough, it reminds me a lot of Time Crisis. You know, the game at the movie theaters with the little foot pedal that lets you take cover. You blew $5 playing it, game overed, and never touched it again. This is like a 2D version of that. It's just pure high score hunting fun. And whoever does the music over a D-pad just knows how to put out top tier stuff. Both of these games have amazing soundtracks. I'm shocked that I've never heard anyone talk about them. Maybe I'm just behind the times. With the rise of the survivor likes, I feel like if D-pad was not set on making a remake of their older title, they could have had a really killer arcade-style action roguelike. Savant is in that price range of being $2 to $10 depending on the deal, and it feels eerily close to these types of games. Savant just subs out the number upgrade dopamine cycle with a more traditional arcade style of gameplay. The mastery of the game and high score being its own reward. So if that sounds up your alley, I say check this one out. And that about does it. D-Pad has one more game that, as of this video, has yet to see the light of day. Or maybe it has? The trailer says it was Game of the Year 10 years ago. What's with the studio and the 10 years thing anyway? Vikings on Trampolines. It looks to be another arcade-style game, but with a focus on 4-player multiplayer this time around. I have heard there's a story mode, so lonely people such as myself will have something to play. And I would assume, based on the Steam page, that all multiplayer is going to be local or rely on Steam Share. So no ranked solo queue Viking MLG esports for me. It looks great, and it looks like really good fun. But will I pick it up? I think if the price is right, there is a chance. The gaming landscape has changed a lot since Owlboy, with games like Silksong being $25, which is the same price as Owlboy. And that's not to say that Owlboy or Savant are bad. It's just that the kind of value you can get for games in the same price range has gone up. Even with stuff like the Survivor likes I mentioned earlier. I think it's going to boil down on the reliance on Steam Share and consoles like the Switch, where pretty much one guy needs to buy it for everyone to play. In my mind, that would push for a higher base price, and for people like me who would really only pick it up for the single player, the value might not be there for me. I'm not trying to imply that the single player is going to be tacked on and not worth it. D-Pad has shown that they bring the game, and they put in maximum effort. But in my head, I'm thinking it's going to be similar to Savant, with maybe a bit more meat on the bone. The game looks beautiful, and will probably have an amazing soundtrack to boot. It's almost guaranteed. These guys put in the work, which probably makes it hard to nail down a fair price. These games got to put bread on the table. And if it ends up being in the $10-ish range, I would probably consider it. But if it goes past 20, I think it makes it a harder sell for people like me. I mean, look how long it took me to get to Owlboy. I hope the game does well. I hope it finds its audience, and I think I did my part. D-Pad puts out good stuff, and these games might be a bit of a hard sell now. There's so many games you don't know which way to look. My personal pick out of the two would be Savant, just for the pure replayability and fun. Owlboy and this will probably be on heavy discounts a few times a year, probably forever. So if you haven't checked them out, I think you should. Thank you for watching to the end of the video if you made it here. If you liked, leave a like, leave a comment. I kind of briefly went over both of these games, so if there was something you wanted me to mention and I didn't, please leave a comment. I'll probably reply. And subscribe. Videos are probably going to be closer to this style of game going forward, so less gotcha, more real game, if that's what you want to say. I guess it would be like real games. I've got a couple things on the to-do list, which is why, again, it takes me a little while to get these videos out, but thank you for watching. Goodbye.